This is the Louie T Network.
I'm ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
Overtime! So we head to overtime.
Who else could it be? Me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to Sunday Night Football Overtime. Cowboys, Raiders. Sunday Night Football. Two historic franchises squaring off on the biggest platform the NFL has during the regular season, Sunday Night Football. I pushed for this game to get flexed out of here. And, boy, I would have loved to have seen Pittsburgh and New England on this spot here. Now, CBS wasn't giving that game up, but glad they didn't flex Seattle and Los Angeles into this spot, which is something else I was advocating for. This game turned out to be pretty solid. These are two bad football teams. Make no mistake about it. Neither one of these teams are very good. Now, the Cowboys get a huge boost next week when they get Zeke Elliott back, and it changes the whole dynamics of their offense. I mean, they're a totally different offense with Zeke Elliott because he's got the capability on any given run to take it the distance, which, you know, I love Alfred Morris, but he's no Zeke Elliott. For that matter, there aren't many players in this league that are Zeke Elliott, and so it's a big boost for them. Maybe too little, too late. They can get in, though. I mean, they're asking for one of three teams to lose twice down the stretch, and they need Detroit to lose once. And I don't know if they're going to get that because Detroit has a pretty easy schedule, and I think with the Packers being out now and Aaron Rodgers having a collarbone that's not 100% healthy, what's the point, right? So you'd like to think at home, Week 17, they should be able to beat the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions should be able to beat Green Bay, led by Brett Hundley. So I think the Lions one might be the one that hurts them the most because I think the three teams that they talked about tonight at the very bottom of that graphic were the Falcons. You had the Saints. Nope. Saints already got to 10. Falcons. I can't even remember the three teams that were at the bottom of that graphic, but it was the Falcons and two other teams. And I think the Panthers, Falcons, and there was one more team in there. The problem with that scenario is that I know two of those teams play each other, or if not three of those, all three of them. It might have been every team in the South, if I can remember that graphic correctly. It might have been Saints, Falcons, and Panthers. In any event, those teams play each other. So someone's going to lose at least a game there, and so they just need them to lose one more. Now, in the case of the Saints or the Panthers, if those teams were even on the list, I don't know if they were on the list or not. But if memory serves me correctly, it was the three NFC South teams. Someone's not going to win a division. Someone's going to win a division, and then there are going to be two teams trying to get in. And right now, the Falcons control the outcome of their season. If they win out, they win the division. If they don't win out, I don't think they're going to beat the Saints. I think the Saints have the best opportunity because they swept the Panthers. They're the team that I'm looking at and saying, if the Falcons don't win the division, it's going to be because of the Saints, and therefore the Saints are going to win the division. That being said, at that point then, with what Carolina has done the last 2 weeks, I'm putting them in the playoffs. There's no way the Panthers are going to lose their final two games. They're going to win next week, And even if they lose in week 17 to the Falcons, I think they're going to win next week, get to an 11, clinch a playoff berth there. And then the game in week 12, or excuse me, 17, is of no consequence for them unless it's for the division. Obviously, then it does mean something to them. But if the Saints have already beat the Falcons the week previous, then the Saints would have clinched the division already. And then if the Panthers win in week 16 as well, then they have nothing to play for. So then at that point, what do you do? Because the Falcons, they just have to win. They're going to win Monday. Barring some kind of catastrophe, they're going to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And that's going to give them 9 wins. They just need to get to 10. They own the tiebreaker. The problem with the Cowboys is they don't own the tiebreaker over any team, just about. Seattle, their bet is already made for the most part. And they can still get in, can the Seahawks. And they're going to be playing with their playoff lives on the line next week. But it's not looking good for the Seahawks. You know, you get emasculated at home the way that they did for the division, and I just don't know how you bounce back from that. I think their season is done, and honestly speaking, what we saw today in Seattle, and I don't want to talk too much about any other game. I don't want to talk about the Steelers game because I'm going to do that after this breakdown. So don't ask me a ton of questions about the Steelers game because we're going to do that after this one. I'm going to go ahead and I watched the Steelers game. I watched the Carolina Panthers game. I watched the Redskins game. I watched a bunch of football today. I watched Titans and Niners already. I watched a ton of football today. A ton of football today. So, barring some kind of catastrophe, they're going to beat the Buccaneers. And I don't see the way, I don't see Seattle bouncing back from what happened to them today. And the point that I was going to make earlier was that I think that we may have seen the end of that whole Legion of Boom, Seattle Seahawks dominance, Super Bowl contender window. I think it's closed in Seattle. I think they've got to start that thing. And I'm going to say blow it all up, start all over, but they're not a scary team anymore. No one's afraid of the Seahawks anymore. They've lost their shine. They've lost their luster. They've got a ton of injuries. And it finally caught up with them, but no excuse. There's no excuse for that. That, at home, no excuse for that. But that's no here nor there. Falcons are going to win on Monday. Then they just got to win one of their final 2 games. They own the tiebreaker over Dallas. Detroit owns the tiebreaker over Dallas. Green Bay's out now because of the loss to Carolina, but they own the tiebreaker over Dallas. The problem with the Cowboys this year is that they lost a ton of NFC games. They won the AFC games for the most part. They got blown out by Denver, but they beat Kansas City. They lost to the Chargers, and now they beat the Raiders. But they lost to the Rams, which it's not going to matter. Rams are going to win that division. They won the NFC West for the most part today. They pretty much clinched that division today. So, but they lost to the Rams. They lost to the Packers. They lost to the Falcons. They've lost too many NFC games against good opponents, against critical opponents. They got swept, or they could have been swept by the Eagles. I don't know if the Eagles are going to need Week 17. They may need it. They may need it because the Minnesota Vikings are right there looking to get that number 1 seed. So the Eagles may need Week 17. They may not, depending on what happens with the Vikings next week. They may at Green Bay. Again, if I'm the Packers, I'm shutting down Aaron Rodgers. If that's the case, then they're going to go to Green Bay on Saturday night and beat the Green Bay Packers or the Minnesota Vikings, and that's going to force the Eagles to need Week 17. So, in effect, then you're going to have to get the best the Eagles have to offer now. Again, no Wentz changes things. But I said all of that to say this. It's going to be tough for the Cowboys to get in because they put themselves in a tough position. However, you get to 10 wins and you've got a shot. It's a long shot, but you've got a shot. I don't see Detroit losing any games down the stretch. They got to go to Cincinnati. They're done. The Bengals are done. They've packed it in already. They're done. So Detroit should be able to go to Cincinnati and win next week. But again, we've seen crazy, strange things happen in this league. But I expect them to do that and then come home for Week 17 against a Aaron Rodgers-less Packers team. We saw what they did to them in Lambeau without Aaron Rodgers. I'd anticipate them doing the same thing this time at home. So I don't see the Lions losing twice. So that's going to hurt you. I don't see the Falcons losing 3 times. because that's essentially what you're going to need. You need them to lose 3 times, excuse me. I don't see them losing 3 times or twice in their final 3 games. I see them losing once, not twice. So I just don't see you being able to get in. But in any event, and they're saying there are other ways that you can get in, but those are the most realistic and logical ways. The other ways require 19 things to happen. That's why they didn't post those up there tonight. Bottom line is, I got to give the Cowboys credit. As much as it pains me to give them any kind of credit, I've got to give them credit for finding a way, because after that Thanksgiving loss against the Chargers, they looked dead in the water. They couldn't score. The defense was bad. The special teams was atrocious. They looked like a team that was Dunsky. And over the last 3 weeks, they've saved and salvaged their season. Is what they've done. That big win against the Redskins reinvigorated them. It rejuvenated this Cowboys football team, gave them the belief that, hey, we can hang in there until Zeke comes back. And they've done that. They beat the Redskins. They turned around. They beat the Giants. It wasn't pretty. And now they've beaten the Raiders. And I expected them. Once they beat the Redskins, I thought that was the one that they could lose. And once they destroyed the Redskins, I knew they could go on the road and beat the Giants. It wasn't pretty, but they got it done. And I knew they could go on the road and beat the Raiders. They're not a good team. So they did what they had to do. None of those wins were pretty outside of the Redskins. None of those wins were pretty wins by the Cowboys. But they were wins, and that's all that matters. So now you get Seattle next week. They're coming off of the worst ass thrashing they've gotten in the Pete Carroll era. I can't imagine that there's a worse loss than 40-7. I can't imagine them getting their ass whooped any worse than that. With Pete Carroll at home. Take that a step further. At home. Can't imagine that they've gotten their ass whooped any worse than that. They're done. So I expect them to show up to Dallas wounded, drunk, and looking for somewhere to lay down. And that's where you come in and you beat the brakes off those boys. Don't give them a chance early. And then you set up a matchup in Week 17 with the Eagles where they may need it, you may need it, and we'll see who gets it. But it's a gutsy performance here on the road. Again, not pretty. Dak wasn't his best. Hasn't been his best throughout this stretch without Zeke Elliott. And for everyone that asked who was more important, chicken or the egg complex, Zeke or Dak, who's more important to the Cowboys' success, you know the answer to that now. You know the answer to that. Because I think you could take Dak out of the lineup, and again, you still need competent play at the position. You can't just stick, say, what's the cat's name from Boise State that stinks, that I'm still upset that Kellen Moore. You can't just stick Kellen Moore in there. He stinks. You'd have to have a competent backup. All right? I'll just throw a rando name out there. And I think he's not even your backup anymore. I think you got rid of him, which you needed to. But let's just throw a rando name out there. Okay? Let's just say Colt McCoy is your backup quarterback. You stick him in at quarterback with Zeke Elliott at running back with that offensive line. And again, you need Tyron Smith back. And that looks like a dicey situation because he's got a number of injuries. Back, now his knee. That could be problematic for you because you just don't have an answer at left tackle. We've seen that. Byron Bell, nope. And we already saw a smooth Chaz 105.3. We already seen what that looks like. Smooth Chaz Green. We don't want to see that again. So that's problematic for you. But you stick anybody in there that's competent at the quarterback position and Zeke, and you can still win. He's that dynamic. You take Zeke out of the lineup and insert Dak, and if you're playing a good team, you're going to lose. You don't stand a chance. We've seen that. All the teams you've beat the last 3 weeks, bad football teams. 6-8 record or worse. All bad football teams. None of them good. But any good team you've played over this stretch, you've gotten your ass whooped, pretty much. So I think I know the answer to this Cowboys football team as to who's more important to the success of the Cowboys. That being said, how about just having both of them? Forget about which one, Kobe or Shaq. Who gives a damn? How about both of them play and it gives you the best shot to win? And the defense stepped up. I like the young boys in your secondary. I've been telling you that all season, though. That's not a surprise. Told you all season long. I like the young fellas, man. They're coming of age, and the more they play, if they can just stay healthy, Awuzie, and I told you I love Jordan Lewis coming out of Michigan. I told you he was feisty. He fights. The only thing he lacked was size. If he was bigger, if he was 6 feet, 6'1", he would have been a first-round pick. The skill set was there. The talent was there. You know, and you're going to get a couple of PIs on these boys. Awuzie got a big illegal contact down by the end zone that extended the possession that led to a touchdown. You got the PI on Jordan Lewis on the 4th down late in the game that gave the Raiders a chance to at least tie it or beat you, and then you get the fumble by card. Those are going to happen with the young fellas. It's going to happen. But those young boys are playing, man. I like them, and if they can stay healthy, Xavier Woods has been really impressive. I mean, to see him go over and play nickel corner, drop down over the slot because of the injury to Scandrick, dude is so versatile. I like these young boys and what they bring to the table, and that's going to be one of the cornerstones of your defense. If they stay healthy and they pan out, you could have the makings of a defense with now DeMarcus Lawrence and David Irvin, who didn't play tonight, but with Irvin and Lawrence being the forces that they are up front, if you could just get – and Tyrone Crawford is solid, but if you could get a real edge rusher over there on the other side, boy, I tell you what, and at some point, and I don't know if, you know, the Notre Dame kid is going to ever become what we thought he was going to be. You know, next year is going to be big for him because now you're not rehabbing anymore. Now you're actually just, you know, going out, strengthening the knee, strengthening the rest of your body, and getting into this playbook a little bit more so that you don't have to think. You can just go out and play. You've already adjusted to the speed of the game. I want to see what he turns out to be. Because if you can get somebody to fill that Sean Lee role for you, a guy that is just dominant at the linebacker position, so you don't have to rely on Sean Lee to stay healthy because it seems like that's almost impossible for him, you got the makings of a dominant defense in Dallas to go along with an offense that is good. I don't think this is a dominant Cowboys offense, a dominant Cowboys run game. But if you stop the run, we've seen the Cowboys struggle. You know, when you shut down Zeke Elliott and this Cowboys offense, which is hard to do, the run game is tough to stop. But if you're able to ground that attack and slow it down like the Denver Broncos were able to do early in the season, then you know what you can do to this Cowboys football team. So if you can get some defense going, create some more turnovers, this could be a scary team in the future. I don't think there's much for you in the 2017 season. Even if you were to somehow get into the playoffs, I don't see you as a good enough team to do it. I just don't. But tell you what, moving forward, you know, looking at the Eagles and what they've become, this Cowboys team could be right there with the Eagles. You guys could be facing off for the division for the next 7 years strong. You two just going at it. You know, with the occasional Giants peek their head in, Redskins peek their head in, but you know, you've already got the cornerstones of what you need to be a viable franchise for the next, you know, decade. You and the Eagles do. You've got the makings of what's going to make you a dangerous team moving forward. Both of you do, which is, as a Redskins fan, I'm envious. I'm upset, disappointed that we didn't do it the right way. You know, we should have had our quarterback. I should be in the mix. You know, our team should be right there with you guys, but we're not because we don't have a quarterback. We don't have certainty at that position. So that pulls us back to the rest of the pack. And you've drafted well, man. We give Jerry Jones a lot of flack. I give Stephen Jones a lot of credit. He's the voice of reason there. You guys have drafted really well, though. You know, I don't think Taco Charlton's going to be that good. I didn't like him at Michigan as much. I thought when I went back and watched tape, I thought he was really solid. And I see potential. But, again, potential can get people fired. He's long. He's athletic. He's got potential. But if that doesn't manifest itself, and if your defensive coordinator, if he can't get him to play well, then nobody's going to be able to get Taco Charlton to play well. Because I've watched him take David Irvin and turn him into a certified monster. I've watched him take DeMarcus Lawrence, turn him into a certified beast. So Charlton looks just like those guys. Just like them. That's why they drafted him. And remember I said, if you could just get a guy on the other side, that other guy is Taco Charlton. No disrespect to Tyrone Crawford. But that other guy is Taco Charlton. And if he develops, and remember, it took DeMarcus Lawrence like 2.5 years to figure it out. But he looks just like Irvin and Lawrence. Big, long, and strong, and athletic. And if he figures it out, God damn it. Look out for the Dallas Cowboys on defense now. So, let's talk about this game. Because to me, this game wasn't that good. It just was close. This is a bad game. That's why I didn't want it on Sunday night. Like, there's a reason I haven't talked about the game yet. I've been up here 20 minutes. I haven't talked about the game, really, because it wasn't a good game. It's just close. Both of these teams aren't good. The Cowboys will be much better next week when they get Zeke back. But neither one of these teams are good. So, it wasn't a good game. It just was close. There's a difference between a good game and a close game. They're not one and the same. And so, the Cowboys made mistakes. Dak had 2 picks in this game. He threw 2 picks. They got lucky with a holding penalty that really didn't impact the play on a 100-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. Derek Carr loses his mind at the end of the game. What the hell is he thinking? We'll talk about that when we get to the Raiders. Fumbles the game away. They missed a field goal. I mean, they made a ton of mistakes that allowed the Cowboys to come away victorious. But they're not a good team. This was a flag fest. I think there were 20 penalties accepted. That doesn't count the ones that were declined. There were 20 accepted penalties. 11 on the Raiders, 9 on the Cowboys. Right? Ridiculous. Both teams over 100 yards in penalty yardage. Now, again, the Cowboys number was skewed by the 55-yard PI at the end. But nonetheless, over 100 yards for the Cowboys, over 100 yards for the Raiders in penalty yards in this game. So, I mean, it was a bad game. Alfred Morris was good early. He was non-existent late. The Cowboys caught a break. That was not a first down. That was not a first down. That will forever be known as Papergate. What is that about? Pulls a paper that's like this thick and puts it in between. It's not a first. I can see a chain link past the nose of the football. It's not a first down, Gene. It's not a first down, Gene. You got a break there because you ended up getting your game-winning field goal on that drive. That was 4th and 1. Again, redhead Jesus being special. I can't stand Jason Garrett. Can't stand him. But he's done a hell of a job this year. Even better than last year when I don't know if he won Coach of the Year last year, but even a better job than last year when you were 13-3 or whatever the hell you were. He's done a great job because this thing could have fell apart. After the loss to the Falcons and then the loss to the Chargers, and there's another loss in there that I'm forgetting. And they were all ugly. They were all bad. After those losses, and the Eagles, smushed in between those two, this thing could have fell apart at the seams, and everybody expected it to. And somehow, some way, they were able to pull it together. And Jason Garrett deserves credit for that. So, this was an ugly game. The Cowboys, I'll say this. The Cowboys made less mistakes. That's why they were able to win the game. They had a fake punt that benefited them. Des Bryant had a big catch late. They did enough. It wasn't pretty. Dak used his legs when he had to. Ran for a touchdown. It wasn't pretty, but it was gritty. It was a dub. So they get it done. But they should have lost this game. I mean, I don't really know how else to say. They should have lost this game. But the Raiders are so bad. They're so bad that they pretty much gift wrapped this game for you. It's the season of greeting and giving. And the Raiders, they've been handing out dubs lately. You know, they didn't show up last week versus the Chiefs in a massive game in the division. And they didn't get it done in this game. Cowboys gave them every opportunity to steal this game, and they refused to take it. And so they take an L instead. And at the end of the day, the good teams find a way to win. And I don't necessarily know if the Cowboys are that. The record says they are, so we'll go with that. And the bad teams in this league find a way to lose. And that's what the Raiders are. They're a bad football team. So, quickly with the Raiders, just really disappointed in their inability to just find a way to win this game. Like, the Cowboys gave them every opportunity to steal this game. You got the punt, the kickoff return for a touchdown. that's called back. And it was a hold, but it didn't impact the play. Don't do that. Don't do that. It didn't need to be done for him to score. Don't do that. Then you miss a field goal, and your kicker, Tavecchio, has been really good this year. Hate the fact that he missed, but he missed. Then I thought you got to stop on 4th and 1. Would you have won the game? I don't know, because look what you did at the end. So I don't know if that would have won you the game. You'd have been in damn near in field goal range. You know, if that's a turnover on downs, and I thought it was. You made the stop at the end of the game to force them to kick a field goal instead of giving them a touchdown, which gave you a shot to try to win at the end. I mean, defensively, 2 interceptions. The stop at the end, the stop on 4th and 1 that I thought you got that they didn't give you. The stop at the end to force a field goal. I thought you did enough to win this game defensively. Your offense, which is supposed to be the strength of your team, let you down again today. It's tough. It's tough when you go out and you make plays defensively. You force 2 interceptions. You force them to kick a field goal, literally inches away from the goal line. You force them on a 4th and 1. I thought to turn the ball over on downs, and the referees gave them a break. I thought it was a bad day for officiating. I thought it was a bad day for the league in general with their rules. Just really disappointed in the NFL and what it's come to, and how everything has become so systematic. It's almost like they're taking the human element out of the game. Everything is now done via replay. There's no human element. What are the officials there for? If you're gonna go back and look at every single call and make everything about down to the finest minute detail, that's not how football was made to be played. Football was made to be played by being able to look at something and say, that's a catch, or that's a fumble, or that's a touchdown. And the reason that replay was instituted was to make sure that the egregious plays, the egregious calls didn't cost teams games. Not the plays that we all can look at and tell are touchdowns or catches or fumbles. Those aren't the ones we're talking about. Okay? Obvious plays. Those aren't the ones we need reviewed for 5 minutes for you to come back and tell us some ridiculous rule and overturn something that shouldn't be overturned. So, I thought that 4th and 1, I mean, really, that's turnover on downs is what that is. So, it is what it is. You know, you made too many mistakes. And let's talk about Derek Carr, and then we'll go to some comments because I've already talked enough. Derek Carr in his offense has been arguably one of the biggest disappointments of the 2017 season. I mean, we looked at the Raiders as a team, as a whole, as a Super Bowl contending team. They were supposed to be up there competing with the Patriots this year. They were supposed to be what the Steelers were. They were supposed to be what the Jaguars are right now. That's what the Raiders were supposed to be this year. What the Jacksonville Jaguars are right now at 10-4, that's what we thought the Raiders were going to be this year. A lot of people did. I didn't. Because I said, I want to see how they handle success. As a Redskins fan, I know what bad football teams and bad organizations do when they have success. They don't know how to handle it, and they usually go in the opposite direction. And Jack Del Rio has said it himself. I don't know what happened, but, you know, I came in, I changed the culture, and I figured that we needed to take that next step, and we've actually went in the opposite direction. We've regressed. And that's what bad organizations and bad football teams do when they have a little bit of success. They don't know how to handle it. It goes straight to their head. They think they're entitled to something. They don't work as hard. They don't make the plays necessary, and you go backwards. You win a division, or you make the playoffs, and you feel like, okay, we're that team now. And so we can just show up in your town or in your city and get a dub, and it don't work like that. And you get beat, and then you get beat again, and then you get beat again, and all of a sudden you start to lose the confidence that you built the year before. And that's where the Raiders are. This offense looks nothing like the offense we saw last year. You can sit here and tell me Amari Cooper was out. Who gives a damn about Amari Cooper? He's been horrible this season. He's regressed. He can't even catch the damn football. His hands are made of stone right now. Jared Cook had a big drop on the third down in this game. He was supposed to help solve your tight end woes. He's been good, but he's Jared Cook. Take the good with the bad. That's Jared Cook. Krabs has been good this year, but he hasn't been great. But he's been the best thing you got. Seth Roberts, same thing. He'll catch one, he'll drop one. Seth Roberts. Deal with it. But the biggest issue I've got with this team is Derek Carr. He's regressed massively. Last year, you put him in a situation like this, they're winning this game. This year, I don't know what the hell Derek. He should have thrown a pick. Anthony Brown should have picked the football off like 6 plays before he fumbled out of bounds. The game should have been over. I told you the Cowboys gave you every opportunity to win this game. But you're a bad team, so you couldn't take advantage of it. He should have picked Derek Carr off. What he was seeing, what he was doing on that throw, I don't know, but that's Derek Carr. That's Derek Carr. At the end of the game, smart football. You got a timeout. You're running out of bounds. It was 3rd and 3. You just picked up 6 yards. Run your ass out of bounds. What are you doing extending the football with the inside arm? With the inside arm. What are you doing? What are you doing? Take your ass out of bounds. 1st and goal from the 2-yard line. You got a timeout and 33 seconds left. What are you doing? You don't need to win the game right there. You know what that's called? Hero ball. You know what you just did? Lost the goddamn game for your team trying to be a damn hero. That's rogue football. Be smart. Don't be a retard. That wasn't smart football. Run your ass out of bounds. Since when did you become a damn athlete? Take your ass out of bounds. Stop the clock. 1st and goal from the 2 with a timeout. Plenty of time. And then you run your little goddamn Crabtree out route on the sprint. Sprint out to the left, to the right. Run Crabtree to the corner pylon and throw him the goddamn football like you always do and win the damn game. No, you want to go play hero football. Take your damn L and go home. And to me, I thought Chris Collinsworth said it perfectly. And I'll end on this. That is the perfect microcosm to the Raiders season right there. That is the perfect way to wrap up a disappointing year with a disappointing play from the most disappointing unit in all of the National Football League, the Raiders offense. Perfect way to sum up the Raiders season. Disappointing. That was a disappointing decision. That was a disappointing play. And that was a disappointing outcome. And it's been a disappointing season for the Raiders because of that disappointing offense and really that disappointing quarterback that last year was right in the dead heat of an MVP race before injuring his knee versus the Indianapolis Colts. Perfect way to end their season. That was Raiders football at its best right there. Raiders lose the game 20-17, dropped to 6-8, and for all intents and purposes, they're eliminated from playoff contention. They needed to win out to even have a shot. They're not mathematically eliminated. Don't talk to me about mathematics here. You're out. You're done. Dallas, however, they're the inverse of the Raiders now. They're 6-8. I mean 8-6. They've got life. Win next week at home versus a Seattle Seahawks team that I think is a wounded duck that's ready to be cooked and eaten. I mean, they were literally killed today. Now all the Cowboys got to do is warm up a pot, season the water, put any kind of different potatoes, carrots, or whatever vegetables you want in the pot, and then throw that dead duck, that dead Seahawk, in the pot, cook it, and eat it. Put those boys down, and that'll set up a massive showdown with the Philadelphia Eagles in Week 17 that I think when it's all said and done, the Eagles are going to need to try to get the number 1 seed in the NFC. So, should be a good one. We'll see what happens with the Eagles because they're 11-2. The Vikings are 10. The Eagles are 12-2. The Vikings are 11-3. And I don't know what the tiebreaker would be if the teams finish tied. So let's say the Eagles win next week. I don't know who they have next week, but it's probably a winnable football game. let's just say they win next week and they get to 12 and 13-2. Even if they finish up at 13-3 and so do the Vikings, I don't know if the Vikings will win the tiebreaker there. I'm trying to think. The Eagles lost to the Chiefs. And the Vikings lost to the Panthers. That's one loss. They lost to the Lions. That's two losses. And they lost to Pittsburgh. So, yeah, I think the next tiebreaker would be conference record. Obviously, they would both have two losses to NFC teams. So I think they would have to win that game. Obviously, there would be some tiebreaker that would differentiate the two in a tie situation, but I don't know who that would go to. So it'll be interesting. It'll be fascinating to see what happens if the Eagles need that game, because that could determine if the Cowboys can get to 10 wins or not. But it may not matter because the Lions may get to 10 wins. The Falcons may get to 10 wins. The Panthers may get to 11. And all of that stuff becomes a moot point at that point of the season. If those teams do what they're supposed to do, Cowboys getting to 10 is irrelevant. Doesn't matter. But we'll see what happens. But in any event, let's get to y'all comments, man. Talk for long enough. I feel like I'm rambling at this point. See what we got. KT the Southern Gent says, now we have to deal with those insufferable Cowgirls fans. Hey, look, man, I'm fine with it, man. I'm fine. I never get mad at a team for being excited about fans for being excited about their team. Not because my team sucks. I'm not gonna look down my nose at your team. You know, if my team is good, I'm not gonna look down my nose at your team. You know, I would kill to be in the Cowboys position right now at 8-6 with a chance. I would kill to be in that spot, but we're not. We're 6-8. So let's see what they do with it. They got an opportunity now with Zeke coming back. They got a shot. Let's see what they do with it. Because I didn't think he should have been suspended in the first place. I hated the fact that he got suspended because that really, they would probably be 9 and something, 10 and something right now if he didn't get suspended. There were games in there that they would have beat the Chargers. They would have beat the Chargers. They might have beat the Falcons for all I know. I don't know if they would have won that game or not, but they would have had a shot. They were right in that game with the Eagles on Sunday night. They were up 9-7. I mean, their season is totally different if Zeke Elliott doesn't get suspended. Totally different. So, I don't know. We'll see. Enrique says, another week of picks, another week in the Piss Cup. I mean, I just don't understand what you're doing, bro. This was not a hard week. Like, I just don't understand what you're doing. I don't get it. I told you what to do. Just pick all the teams that are favored in games. You're not listening. I think you like having the Piss Cup, Enrique. Dre True Statement says, wow, that game was very bizarre. It was. It was. 3-11 Atlas says, Lou, I tell you this week was filled with very bitter tasting games. Tired of refs deciding games like this. Man, the referees were, they were on one today, man. But it wasn't just the refs. It's the entire NFL. You know, the refs are the face of the NFL, but the NFL, they're getting these calls when they go into the replay booth. They're getting them from New York, from the head of the officiating crew, everybody's been ripping Al Riveron to shreds. Even the two guys that held the position that he currently holds, the last two guys, Dean Blandino and man, I can't think of his name, but I can see his face. They were the last two head of officiating for the NFL, and they both work for Fox, and they have a podcast. And they've been killing Al Riveron for the job he's doing this year. They've been terrible with the calls that they've made this year. It's ridiculous. KT, the Southern Gent, says, are Seattle's playoffs hopes done? No, they're not done, but they're done. Like, they can still get to 10. And if they get to 10, they got a shot. They got to win their last two games to get to 10. But the problem is, to get to 10, they're going to have to beat the Cowboys, which I don't see them doing. And then week 17 at home versus Arizona, they could lose that game too. And then after that, they need help. They got to look around and they're going to need help because they don't own tiebreakers over just about anybody. Remember, They lost to Atlanta already, so if Atlanta gets to 10, they're out. You know, if Detroit gets to 10, they probably have a better conference record than that of Seattle, because Seattle's lost a ton of NFC games. A ton of NFC games. Lost to the Redskins, lost to the Packers, lost to the Falcons, lost to the Rams. They've lost, and they've lost a ton of NFC games. So it's not looking good for Seattle right now. To me, they're done. They're dead. But mathematically, no. Eagle Speed says, this game was fixed for Dallas. Really, an index card. It wasn't an index card, but it wasn't fixed. Because the Raiders had every opportunity to win this game. It's not like that call gave the Cowboys a first down and allowed them to run out the clock. They still had to go down and get a touchdown, which they didn't. They kicked the field goal, which gave the Raiders a chance to either tie the game or win the game. And the Raiders had the football literally with a chance to get first and goal from the 2, and Derek Carr does something dumb. So the game wasn't fixed. Ridiculous. Reby says, what up, Lou? A lot of good games today. I'm going to be on you for like 5, man. Going to be a fun week of reviews. I'm going to, after this one, probably rip off about a good 2 or 3 tonight. Just to get them out of the way, because I watched them and they're fresh in my mind. So, going to be doing that probably tonight. Stormtrooper 2817 says, Raiders were not making the playoffs anyway, but it's kind of amusing that an NFL team was more or less eliminated from the playoffs by whether a referee folded a piece of paper or not. Yeah, but again, that's going to be the most memorable thing from this game, but that's not what decided. Like, refocus, people. Come here. Look, pay attention. Look at me. Read my lips. That's not what lost the Raiders the game. Okay? That's not what lost the Raiders the game. The 11 penalties for like 105 yards. That lost the Raiders the game. Derek Carr fumbling the football out of bounds at the end lost the Raiders the game. Your kicker missing a field goal helped the Raiders lose the game. That didn't decide this game. The Raiders' inability to take advantage of opportunities lost them. Refocus, people. Hey, I know attention span is limited in today's age. Focus. That's not what this game is about. It's not about the folded piece of paper. The Raiders could have won the game at the very end if Derek Carr runs out of bounds. They've got a timeout. It's going to stop the clock. Okay? Him going out of bounds is going to preserve the timeout. 33 seconds left. First and goal from the 2-yard line. You're at worst coming away with the field goal to tie this game instead of the overtime. You're going to win this game, though. You're going to get in the end zone. Somehow, whether it's Marshawn Lynch on a run because you got a timeout, you can do that. Or it's your favorite 5-yard and in play. Sprint right, sprint left, Crabtree. You run it with the Chiefs game. You ran it in this game for a touchdown. You're going to run it again, and he's going to get open again. Touchdown, you're going to win this game. That's what lost you the game. Your inability to take advantage of opportunities. KT, the Southern gent, says, L.A. spanked Seattle like they were a child talking back to their parents. Man, that one was brutal. I watched that one too. And I was amazed at what I saw, man. And had I not been watching it, I wouldn't have believed it. If, like, I was watching, say, Pittsburgh and New England, and I'm just seeing the score keep going up and up and up at the bottom line, I wouldn't have believed it. Because it was amazing watching them dominate. It was a combination of Seattle self-destructing and the Rams just not giving a shit. Like, we don't care that you beating yourself. We gonna beat the shit out of you. I mean, it was bad. It was 34-0 at halftime. Wow. In Seattle. Wow. Captain Spartan 04 says, please do the Patriots Steelers game later in the day so that way I can get everything out and actually be able to watch the stream. I'm actually going to do it right after this one. I mean, I got a lot to say about that game in particular. So I'm going to do that one after this one. So Dark Sealer 1995 said, the referees and the rules and the inconsistency of the rules and how they are handled has ruined the NFL product and made it miserable this year. I agree with you. I don't think that it has ruined the NFL product, but it's watering it down and it's making it to the point now where people are becoming frustrated because you don't know. The interpretation of the rule is what made everything so convoluted. You just don't know. You think you know, and in past years you would know, and now, since the Calvin Johnson rule has been instated, it's just made everything so damn confusing. That was a catch, but we're not gonna talk about that here. We're not gonna talk about that here right now. We're gonna talk about that later. Stormtrooper 2817 says Raiders had a pick six, a kick return touchdown, and Jared Cook touchdown call back today. Each was different on the quality of the call, but still can't believe they choked that hard. Look, that's the Raiders in a nutshell right there. Dre True Statement says 100% agree, and I've been saying it all season long. Seattle's days of strike and fear is over. They don't need to start over, but they need to have a good offseason to get back to the playoffs. I think they're getting old. Like, the Legion of Doom is no longer the Legion of Doom. Or Boom, excuse me. The Legion of Boom. No one's afraid of them. No one's afraid of Earl Thomas or Cam Chancellor or Richard Sherman. And they're never all healthy together in any event. And they had a ton of injuries this year. But they never found the running back that they were looking for. They can never stay healthy at running back. The offensive line continues to be a problem that they need to fix. They keep trying to put Band-Aids on it. They need to fix it. Russell Wilson, he got destroyed today. There's no two ways about it. You can run on this defense now. I watched Jacksonville run for over 100 yards last week with Fournette. Todd Gurley damn near had 100 yards rushing in the first half of this game. He went over 100 yards early in the third quarter. Had a 40-something yard run for a touchdown, and that put him well over 100 yards. I mean, he had like 90 yards rushing at halftime on just like 12 or 13 carries. I mean, he was digging in their ass. And I watched the 49ers run on them in Seattle, like week 3. Carlos Hyde had like 17 carries for like $140, and there was like a 78-yard run in there. I mean, I've seen teams run on Seattle. You can run on the Seahawks. Like, they're just not the same team. They're not scary at home. No one's afraid of them in Seattle, which was probably their biggest advantage, was that you couldn't go into Seattle and win. You can go in there now. Reby says, I want that sweep on the Cowgirls so bad. Sweeping the entire East and killing Dallas. Chance to get in. An invite would be sweet. It would be. I know it would be. The question is, does your team need that game? John Niner says, Kyle Shanahan and Jimmy G have a great connection. And they did what you said they were going to do. I didn't think they would do it, but they did it. They won that football game. I got a lot to say about that game because I watched that game already as well. Mondraw says, I really want to see what the Lions could do in the playoffs given the opportunity to get their minds right and get things going. I don't think they do much. I just don't think that they're good enough. I've watched the Lions, and they just seem like they're mediocre. Like, they were supposed to destroy the Bears yesterday, but they didn't. It's just 20-10. Just that's what the Lions are. Like, they don't destroy anybody. When they win, they don't win convincingly. They just win. When they lose, they can get blown out. When they lose. We saw it against Baltimore. So they're a frustrating team. They should have beat Minnesota on Thanksgiving. So we know they're talented enough. But I don't think very highly of the Lions. They've lost to just about every team that matters in the NFC. I don't think they can beat Philadelphia, and that's with Nicholas Foles. I don't think they can beat Philadelphia. They've already lost to Minnesota. They've beaten Minnesota, but I think that was more a byproduct of Dalvin Cook going down in that game than anything else. And even that wasn't impressive. And then they lose on Thanksgiving. I thought they should have won that game, but they did it. And you should have, could have, would have, but you didn't. So, I don't know. We'll see. Mondraw says, I'm really impressed by that rookie Michigan corner from the Cowboys. I already told you that Jordan Lewis was going to be a good player for them, and he's continuing to grow. I like him a lot. John Niner says Raiders got robbed by the refs tonight. Raiders got robbed by themselves tonight. Dre True Statement says, your take on if Jason Garrett should be on the hot seat if the Cowboys don't make the playoffs, even though we know that's not Jerry's boy, but it's bottom line that matters to him. No, Jerry's already said he's not on the hot seat, and he shouldn't be. I don't like Jason Garrett. I can't stand Jason Garrett, as a matter of fact. Don't think he's that good of a coach. Hate the way he looks on the sidelines. Hate the fact that he decides to spit every 2 seconds. You know, move the little mouthpiece, spit every 5 seconds. Stop spitting all over the goddamn place. Just hate his smug attitude. Can't stand Jason Garrett. But he's done a phenomenal job this year. He has. I got to give him credit. This thing could have fell apart at the seams. And he kept it together. So, nah, he's not getting fired. He doesn't deserve to be fired either. Tyler Rodriguez says, all I got to say is Crabtree always gets the ball and nobody does anything about it. Seems to be the case. You know who he's going to. That's his boy. That's the only guy that he really trusts in those types of situations. And still, he's able to get open. Dark Sister says, Chaz Green is a Hall of Famer to his mama. He's the GOAT. Reby says, showing up drunk? Didn't watch this one. Thanks again. Oh, man, these overtime games are going to be epic. Can't wait. NFL catch rule has issues. It does. Atlas says, teams that rely on one or two players to be good are not good teams. No excuses. Injuries happen. Don't go all Skip Bayless on me. I don't know what you're referencing, so I can't really elaborate on that one. Stormtrooper 2817 says, do you think the Raiders should look to fire Del Rio or just the offensive coaching staff? It's obvious Downing's scheme change has been an absolute disaster, but should they find a new head coach? I like Del Rio. I like Jack Del Rio. I don't think he's the problem. Offensively, Todd Downing has been a massive disappointment, but he's a first-year offensive play caller. Like, he's never done this before at this level. Like, it's not like this dude was on somebody else's staff and, you know, he got an opportunity because he earned it through the ranks. And no, he's never done this before. You know, like, this dude wasn't really qualified to even be doing this right now. But that being said, he was Derek Carr's boy. That's how he got the job. Derek Carr vouched for him. He's in the position. And you can do one or two things here. You can either say, all right, year one was rough. Let's give him another shot next year. Because he should be more comfortable in year two. And really, what we have to take into consideration is when you bring a new play caller in, it usually takes about a year for everybody to get acclimated to each other. The play caller with the players with the play caller. So making a switch may be detrimental to this team's offense next year. Because then they have to learn a new offense all over again. And you're back to square one again. So maybe you give him another shot, but I don't think Del Rio is a problem. I don't want to see the Raiders get rid of Jack Del Rio, but I don't know. We've seen, look, bad franchises do things like that. So we'll see what the Raiders decide to do. John Niner says, I've never seen a ref use an index card to measure a first down either. I mean, that was crazy. I've never seen him pull a sheet of paper. It was really a sheet of paper folded up. It could have been an index card, but it was something folded up. And literally, he stuck it in between the ball. And like I said, I could see a piece of the chain link past the football. I mean, it was the flair for dramatics, but really, I thought it was Raiders ball, to be honest with you. But Stormtrooper says, one last thing. Would you have folded that card or not? It was already folded, but well, it shouldn't even come to that. He should have been able to look at that thing and say, no, to me, it was always, if any part of the stick is past the football, it's not a first down. That was always, and again, it could be a different interpretation. I could be wrong. Maybe the links have to be clearly, definitively passed. I just thought it was always, if any part of that chain, that stick, is past the football, it's not a first down. There was clearly about an inch to a half of inch of that chain link and that stick that was clear of the football. To me, that screams first down Raiders. Turnover on downs. But, I mean, to answer your question, no, I wouldn't have folded the card, but I think it was already folded anyway. So, Dark Sealer 1995 says, the most surprising thing to see this year is the regression of Derek Carr. He seems like he's scared in the pocket and scared of getting injured. I already told you, when there's pressure, Derek Carr is scared. He is a guy that does not handle pressure well. This goes back to his days at Fresno State. He does not like to get hit, and since he's gotten injured twice, last year against the Colts and this year against the Broncos, he definitely doesn't want to get hit. So he's a little antsy. And you've seen him perform that way this year. Captain Spartan says, what are you doing with that mustache, man? What are you talking about? I've had this same goatee for the last 6 months. Where you been at, man? John Niner says, Derek Carr to me looks like he's uncomfortable in the pocket. I'd agree with that. John Perez is excited the Redskins won, as am I. John Perez also says, what do you think of Cordero Patterson since he joined the Raiders? Seems like a new man since he's changed teams. I've always thought the dude was uber talented. Still think he deserves a bigger role as a receiver, but there's a reason why everywhere he goes, he doesn't get that opportunity. So there's probably a reason for that. But on kickoff returns, the dude is the best in the league on kickoffs. There's no doubt about it. There's not even a discussion to be had. He's the best in the league at kickoff returns. And you saw it again tonight. The dude is just explosive and dynamic. Even when he doesn't run it back, it's still exciting to watch. And there are a few returners with the new rules that are exciting to watch on kickoffs. He's one of them, though. John Perez says, how about those beatdowns the Seahawks and Texans took from the Rams and Jaguars, respectively? Those are the two surprise teams of the league this year, and they're a lot of fun to watch. Both of those teams are a lot of fun to watch. And I'm just so happy for Sean McVay, man. I never thought in my wildest dreams he'd turn the Rams around this quickly. But it just goes to show how good of a coach he is. And I think even more important than him just being a hell of a coach is the staff that he put together. I told you, I made a lot about the staff that he put together. I said, look, Sean McVay's going to turn that offense around. But more importantly, Wade Phillips is going to turn that defense around. And then they've got John Fossil out there as their special teams coordinator, and he's magnificent. They're just good, man, on every single side of the football. In every facet of the game, they're just better. Special teams, they may have the best special teams in all of football. Then you couple that with now the defense is much improved because of Wade Phillips. And then you turn around and the offense is light years better than what it's ever been since the greatest show on turf because of Sean McVay. And all of a sudden now they're outstanding. And the Jags, their defense is just suffocating on defense. Mandra says, what changed from the Raiders? I mean, they're basically the same team from last year with a couple more free agents. Their offense is vastly different. Vastly different offense. You bring in Marshawn Lynch, it changes your mindset a little bit to wanting to run it a little bit more. But the offensive coordinator, it changed. And that changed a lot of what they've looked like this season. So one of those situations where if it's not broke, you probably don't need to fix it. They tried to fix something that wasn't necessarily broken. They thought they could improve it, and they've made it worse. So John Perez says, is it possible the Raiders haven't been the same? Yep. Week 3 against the Redskins exposed them to the rest of the league, and they haven't been the same since. I'd agree with that. KT, the Southern Gent, says, what's up with these former backup quarterbacks becoming head coaches? Peterson in Philly, Garrett and Dallas. What, Colt McCoy next? I tell you what, and Gary Kubiak was the same way in Denver. He won the Super Bowl. We've seen backup quarterbacks in this league become head coaches. And part of the reason why is backup quarterbacks are some of the smartest guys on the team because, first of all, quarterbacks in general are some of the smartest guys on the team because you got to know so much. You got to know everybody's position. You got to know what everybody's doing on the offensive side of football. Then you have to study defenses, so you got to know what everybody's doing on defense. So it lends itself to a guy being able to kind of take in everything. And as a backup, you're not playing. And so you get to see the team dynamic on full display. You're not in the game. You're not prepping for the game as the starter. You're not taking a bunch of practice reps. So you get to see the team dynamic. You get to see the coach make calls on the sidelines. You get to see how everything kind of everyone interacts with one another. You get a first-rate view of what it is to be a head coach, essentially, as a backup quarterback. Because you're right there by the coach for the most part. You're listening in the headset to the calls that's going in. You're seeing how everybody interacts with one another. You're listening to coaches having to talk to players. When Dak Prescott makes a mistake, guess what? Or let's go with Jason Garrett. When Troy Aikman would make a mistake and he'd come off the field and he'd have to talk to Ernie Zampese on the sidelines. And he'd be sitting right there getting all the information from Zampese. They'd go over the pictures and he'd get all the information. He got to see all of that. He got to see what it was like to win with Emmitt Smith and Michael Irvin and the triplets and that defense. He got to be around Jimmy Johnson and he got to be around and all of that stuff. They soak it in. These backup quarterbacks, they're the best players that are equipped to take all of the knowledge that they've gained and become head coaches. So that's why you see that. Good observation, though. John Niner says, Chidobe Awuzie, one of the worst corners I've ever seen. Stop that. No way. I actually think he's playing well. The Oakland Raiders regressed this year. Yep. Dart Sealer says, you mean Cooper Bay, Lou? Yeah, you might as well call him. It seems like he's morphed into Darius Hayward Bay overnight, man. I swear it seems like he has. KT, the Southern Gent, says, does Khalil Mack become a free agent next year? Yeah, he's not going anywhere. Raiders aren't going to let him out of their sights. He's a franchise guy, face of their franchise, along with Carr. They franchise tag him before they let him walk. I think they did the Derek Carr deal this year to make sure that they freed up money for Khalil Mack when he becomes a free agent. And the thing about Mack is, I know they picked up their 5th-year option on him, so I don't think he even becomes a free agent until the year after next. Because I think he was a part of that 2013 draft with Clowney. So he won't become a free agent until after the 2018 season. So he'll be a free agent in the 2019 season, going into the 2019 offseason, and the Raiders are going to be all over that. He'll probably get a new deal before then. I don't see the Raiders allowing him to get away. KT, the Southern Gent, also says, just saying, Oakland paid Carr before they paid Mack. Big mistake. No, it was the right thing to do because Carr wasn't a first-round pick. They didn't have that 5th-year option on him, so they had to lock him up first. Remember, Derek Carr's a 2nd-round pick. Khalil Mack's a 1st-round pick. So you have the option to extend the 5th-year option. They did that. They exercised that. So they get an extra year of Khalil Mack under his rookie deal. They're going to take full advantage of that before they pay him. So actually, it was the right thing to do. Let's keep going. Let's see. Where are we? Let's see. Here we go. Reese says, Cowboys just won't go away. No, they won't. They're fighting. And they're going to have a shot. It's going to be interesting to see how it goes down the stretch. Reby says, I agree on the officiating. Shaking my head. Can't wait till you get to that Steelers game. LOL. Stone hands. Hero ball. Don't be a retard. Cooking Seahawks. Reby says, we play the Raiders at home next week. Yeah, you're going to win that game. Raiders are done. So, yeah. That's not another NFC team, but you're going to win that game. So, I think you're going to need Week 17. It's looking like you're going to need Week 17. John Niner says, with the Panthers winning, I see them making the playoffs with the Saints and Falcons. Falcons are interesting because the Panthers are making the playoffs. They're in. The Saints are making the playoffs. They're in. I'm convinced. Because the Saints, even if the Saints lose to the Falcons next week, they're already at 10 wins. And they're going to beat the Buccaneers in Week 17. So, for all intents and purposes, the Saints are in. So then you look at the Panthers. With those 2 wins the last 2 weeks, huge wins at home, they're in. Don't know who they have in Week 16. Don't care. They're in. Even if they don't beat the Falcons in week number 17, they're getting in. So then you look at the Falcons. They're the one team that can actually not make it out of that trio of teams in that division. That being said, if they win out, they win the division. So they've got everything they want in front of them. And if they win 2 out of 3, they're probably getting in. And if they get to 10, that's the magic number for everybody. Get to 10. I told you there's going to be some 10-win team out there in the NFC that doesn't get in. Whether it's Detroit, Atlanta, Dallas, somebody's getting to 10 and not getting in. So we're going to see. Ed says next weekend should be a great football and basketball holiday weekend. KT, the Southern Gent, says $20 says Daniel Snyder throws an armored truck at Matt. Not happening. Raiders aren't letting him even hit free agency. Like I said, they will franchise tag him before he even gets a chance to sniff free agency. And like I said, I don't even think it's going to get to that. He's going to, I think, reach a deal with the Raiders before they even have to slap the franchise tag on him. So no way he even hits free agency. Atlas says, remember when people said the AFC West is the best division in football? That's just funny now. Yeah. I may have been one of them. I told everyone that the South, the NFC South, was going to be a great division because they've got the best collection of quarterbacks in all of football. So by virtue of that, they were going to have one of the best divisions. But I also thought the AFC West would be really good this year. And like you said, it's turned out to be one of the worst. John Perez says, refs smoked some hard crack before this game. Seahawks are digressing as a team. I'd agree. Injuries have really played a major part in their demise, but they're not getting better either. Jay Moose says, someone on Twitter said that paper was the check Jerry sent to the ref. Twitter is undefeated, man. Social media is undefeated. Dre True Statement says, get them right. The Raiders lost this game. Yes, absolutely. Reby says, focus, people. That fumble lost the game. Thank you, Reby. Absolutely. Slump says, who you got sneaking into the playoffs with the 6th seed in both conferences? I got in the AFC side of the bracket, the Ravens are getting the 6th seed, if not the 5th seed. Because now the Titans, so no, I take that back. The Ravens are going to get the 5th seed. The Titans are tripping now. They looked to be a lock for the playoffs 2 weeks ago, and 2 ugly losses later, they could not make the playoffs now. So I'm looking at the Titans, and I'm saying, you don't need to, matter of fact, you don't need to go nowhere. So now I'm changing it up, and I'm saying that no, I take that back. Titans are still getting in. You know why? I don't know who they're playing next week. It's a tough game. Somebody at home, though, but it's tough. It's somebody good, too. Like the Rams. I think they got the Rams next week at home. They're probably going to lose that game, too. But here's the problem. The Bills are going to lose to the Patriots in Week 17 because the Patriots are going to need that game. I don't know who the Bills have in Week 16, but they're losing next week. They're not getting to 10. They're going to be 9-7. So then the question becomes, can the Titans somehow find a way to 10 wins? It looked like a foregone conclusion just 2 weeks ago. With the Niners and the Cardinals on the schedule, they were going to get to 10 wins, and that was going to be enough to get in. Now, 10 might be a stretch for the Titans, but it's real. If they can win next week, they can beat Jacksonville in the final game of the season because Jacksonville won't need that game. Most likely, Jacksonville won't need that game. And so they'll be resting starters, and Tennessee can go in and win that game at home, Week 17. So for all intents and purposes, Tennessee's season is next week. They win at home versus the Rams, and they are going to get in my mind. So I'll go with the Titans as the 6th and final seed in the. It'll be the Ravens. So if the Titans and the Ravens both get to 10 wins, the Titans beat the Ravens head to head, so they would be in effect the 5th seed, and the Ravens would be your 6th seed. So Baltimore in the AFC. In the NFC, I'm going to say that the Falcons are going to be your 6th and final seed in the NFC because they get to 10 wins and they own the tiebreaker over everybody. And when I say everybody, I mean everybody. They own the tiebreaker over Seattle, which if Seattle can somehow, some way get to 10, they own the tiebreaker over Seattle. They own the tiebreaker over Green Bay. Well, they're out now because of their loss today. But they own the tiebreaker over because they beat them head-to-head. They beat Dallas head-to-head. They beat Detroit head-to-head. They beat everybody who matters in the NFC head-to-head. Dallas, Green Bay, Detroit, and Seattle. So all the Falcons have to do is win 2 out of their last 3, and they're going to get in. And I don't see Carolina needing Week 17, unfortunately enough for everyone else that will. Because I think the Saints are going to beat the Falcons in Week 16, which will then prompt the Saints. That will give the Saints a division. So then Carolina can't improve their status. The only thing that they can then do is position themselves with the 5th or 6th seed, which at that point, who gives a shit? 6th seed, 5th seed. You're either going to the Rams. If avoiding a specific team in the first round matters to you, okay, knock yourself out. But at that point, you much rather be healthy by resting some guys than worried about 5th or 6th seed. You know, whether you go to L.A. or you're going to who'd be the other division winner? You got Minnesota and Philadelphia as your 2 bye teams. And you'd have the Rams and the Saints. So, I mean, the difference between going to New Orleans or going to the Rams, honestly, who gives a shit? I don't. I want healthy players. Styles do make fights, and you do care who you play, but I don't give a shit. If I'm a team, I more so care about Cam Newton and Greg Olsen and all those guys, Funches, who had an injury today. You know, all those guys that were dropping like flies in that Panthers game today, being healthy for the playoffs. So I don't know if they'll need that game. Falcons will, and I see them getting in. So those are my 2 6 seeds. Falcons in the NFC, Ravens in the AFC. Ed says the Rams have arrived now. They have. That win today put them on the map. That was decisive, and that's scary. What they did to the Seahawks, that was scary. Because just 2 weeks ago, Seattle beat Philadelphia. And I know it's family business, and you know how it goes with family. But that right there, that was brutal. That was gruesome. I mean, that crime scene was the worst crime scene I've seen all season long. There was blood everywhere. I mean, I've never walked into a crime scene. And look, I've been doing this for over 20 years. I'm a veteran detective. It ain't too many crime scenes that turn my stomach and make me say, God damn, this is bad. You know, there aren't too many of them that I haven't seen already that I'm like, okay, you know, I've seen this before. I've seen double murders. I've seen whole families slayed. That was one of the most horrific crime scenes I've ever seen in Seattle. And I've seen some bad ones. I've never seen a crime scene quite like that one before. I had to gather myself and compose myself just to go back in, to take a look, to gather the evidence, just so I can try to solve the crime. So, the Rams are here. They're here. Loud and clear. Captain Spartan says Derek Carr was thinking of the paper. That's why he fumbled it. Mondraw says, don't you hate it when teams try to get away with things like Seattle and their offensive linemen? I do. I hate when teams not necessarily try to get away with things, but they overlook big needs and try to, get away with it. You said it right. They tried to get away with George Font at left tackle. They thought that was okay. That didn't work. He got hurt. They tried to get away with a patchwork offensive line, moving guys around, shuffling guys around. Same thing can be said for the Raiders at the linebacker position. They tried to get away with not addressing the linebacker position. They had to pay for it. You can't get away with this stuff. You know you have a clear, glaring need. You better address it in the offseason when you get an opportunity to. And they didn't. Captain Spartan says, how's Posick looking? He's better at right tackle. I don't know. I can't sit here and act like I've been watching Ethan Posick specifically. You'd have to ask a Seahawks fan that. Atlas says, does Sean McVay get Coach of the Year award at this point? It's between him and Doug Marrone in Jacksonville for me. Like, how could you not give it to one of those two guys? I know what Philadelphia has done this year is great, but there were high expectations for the Eagles this year. Maybe not 14-2, potentially 13-3, first seed in the NFC, first round bye, all that good stuff. But expectations were high for the Eagles this year. A lot of people looked at the Eagles as a chic pick to be a really good team and potentially make the Super Bowl. No one expected the Rams nor the Jaguars to do what they're doing right now. No one expected either one of those teams to be 10-4 at this point and winning their division. Both of them are going to win their divisions. Both of them have been dominant this season. Both of them are among the best in their respective conferences. No one saw this coming. One of those two coaches have to walk away with Coach of the Year, and my money is on Sean McVay. John Niner says, Jimmy G, 381 yards with no receivers. When he actually gets some talent around him, we could be a scary team in 2 years. I thought Jimmy G was outstanding in this game, especially the final drive of the game. I mean, it happened so quick. Kittle, Goodwin, boom, you're in field goal range, just like that. I mean, wow. It was impressive. Reeby says, I wish I would have watched the Seahawks game. Just kept seeing the score go up and goose egg remain for so long. I was like, wow. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and I was watching it. John Perez says, what other coach or former coach reminds you of Jason Garrett's smug attitude? I mean, there are a ton of smug coaches in this league. There's no one more smug than Bill Belichick. No one. So, I mean, there are a lot of coaches that are smug. Most coaches have, to me, in Houston, Bill O'Brien's smug. He's always got an attitude. He's always ready to buck off on a journalist. It's a lot of smug coaches around the league, man. A lot of these dudes are, I mean, look, they're good dudes, but they're assholes at the same time. And some of that comes with the territory. Like, look, a lot of these reporters ask some stupid ass questions after games, so I can't even be mad. But some of these dudes are just jerks, I think. CF Coasters, I need to stop watching these games or I'll have a heart attack. Watch Panthers, Packers, Raiders, Cowboys today. Not the best decision. Yeah, those were two nail-biter games. And I know you're a fan of the Panthers. And y'all made it tough on yourself by not recovering the onside kick. But luckily enough for you, James Bradbury with the play of the game. Because they were going down to score the game, tie the game up at, what would have been, 31 apiece? They were going to tie it up. So, and I think if they would have tied it up, you were going to lose the game. Michael Thompson says, did you see Cam Newton, Clay Matthews interaction? I did. If you're talking about watch this pre-snap, that was pretty hilarious. And that was nasty by Cam. He told him, watch this, and then scored a touchdown. So, yeah, that was pretty sweet. Reeby says, oh, yeah, congrats on your team's win. Want to see that one. And two, the Jags defense is scary. It was nice to get a win. The ref tried to jerk us down the stretch. Boy, the Cardinals are bad. Boy, the Cardinals are bad. We're bad, and they're worse. So that's how we won that game today. John Perez says, why does that damn Redskins defense always give me a heart attack? When the other team tries to throw a Hail Mary, the Seahawks did it a few weeks ago. Now the damn Cardinals did it. Reeby says, CF Coasters, my heart was in my chest all day. Took a while to calm down, but can't stop watching. Oh, man. Lost my damn earring. I got to find that thing. Who knows where it could be? I got a couple of locations I got to check. John Perez says, oh, no, I already read that. It was a lot of close games. Steelers game was close. Niners game was close. Packers game was close. Raiders game was close. I watched a lot of close ball games today. It was a good day of football. John Perez says, Khalil Mack to the Redskins if Raiders can't resign him. Love to see it. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. Mondraw says, hey, man, all football aside, how did the Christmas shopping go? It went well. I'm not done yet, but it was a nice start to my Christmas shopping for sure. MJ Mayer says, do you think Aaron Rodgers will play against the Vikings next week? No, I don't. I think he's done with the Packers' playoff chances done. There's no reason for Aaron Rodgers to be out there. I think you'll see Brett Hundley the final 2 weeks of the season. KT, the Southern Gent, says, Mack and Carr came into the league the same year. Right, correct. However, Mack, first round pick, Carr, second round pick. That means Mack's deal has an extra year on it if the team decides to extend that option, which they did. So that means Carr's deal is up in 4 years with no fifth-year option for the team. Mack's deal is up in 5 years if they exercise the option, which of course they're going to do because they want to keep him on that rookie deal a year longer. So that's the difference between the two. They weren't both first-round picks. One was a first-round pick, one was a second-round pick. Hence the extra year for Mack on the deal and not the same thing for Derek Carr. So that's the difference. John Perez says, Antonio Brown got hurt, but he's luckily expected to be ready for the playoffs. Would you like to see the Steelers versus Saints Super Bowl between Big Ben and Breeze? I wouldn't mind that at all. Wouldn't mind it at all. SOL Nation says, Redskins Rapid React tonight, or are we waiting for Tuesday? It might come tonight. It may come tomorrow. You'll get it, though. You'll get it. Let's see. Cloud says, kind of off topic, how do you feel about the best player available philosophy in the draft? You know I'm not talking draft right now, Cloud. You know that. Reby says, oh my, the crime scene was that bad? LOL, can't wait for you to get to that one. It was bad, Reby. Crime scene was bad. John Perez says, off subject, what do you think of the Houston? I'm not talking basketball either right now, John. But the Rockets are playing phenomenal basketball. FBG Tony says, glad we got a dub, but it's sad that our December football is going to be meaningless. It is what it is. I've already wrapped my brain around that. CFC Coaster says, love how the 49ers are winning a bunch of games now just in time to ruin their draft pick. They don't give a damn about it. It's about a culture. Only fans care about dumb shit like draft status. That's why I don't give a damn about the Redskins winning today. I wanted them to win. I want them to win next week, and I want them to win in Week 17. I want to go 8-8. I know that doesn't help our draft stock, but that's stupid to lose because you're creating a culture of losing. No one wants to lose. Only fans think about dumb shit like draft picks. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who you draft. If your franchise has the mentality of a loser, you're going to keep losing. You got to have a winning mentality. The only thing that can foster change and winning is winning, not drafting players. Good players help you win, but also the mentality of if you come here, you're going to win. New England is good, not because of the players. Yeah, Brady helps. Belichick helps a lot. But there's a culture that when you come there, you expect to win. Guys that were malcontents elsewhere, they signed them in New England, and they changed the way that they behave because it's a culture there of winning. So either you conform or you carry your ass. There's a reason why Cleveland got a ton of talented football players. And yes, a quarterback would make a world of difference for them. But also, guess what would make a world of difference? Winning. They expect to lose in Cleveland. So don't talk to me about draft picks. You think they wouldn't trade the first overall pick for 3 wins this season and be the 3rd or 4th pick in the draft? They want to win. Don't give a damn about a draft pick. They want to win. It's not cool to lose. Reby says, in my Eagles and the 49ers, Eli was acting up. 502 yards. I haven't watched that game yet, but it was just crazy to see all of the points that was given up in that game. I got to that game at the very end. They gave us some bonus coverage of that game at the end. We were able to get away from the games we were watching at 1 o'clock just in time to see Eli airmail the ball to Evan Ingram in the back of the end zone on 4th down, which pretty much sealed the deal there. FBG Tony says, do you think Brett Hundley will be any good in this league as a starter? Of course. I'm not sold on Brett Hundley. I don't like what I've seen, but he's young, man. I've backed off of my earlier statement, which is he's garbage. I don't like what I've seen. I haven't been impressed with him. I've been more impressed with Jacoby Brissett than I have Brett Hundley. But again, it's early for both of those young. And Jacoby Brissett has a long way to go. Hundley has a long way to go. But the only way he's going to get better is if he plays. So we'll see what happens. Michael Thompson says, do you think the Panthers can make noise in the playoffs? Absolutely. So anybody in the NFC, it wouldn't shock me. All of the teams that get in wouldn't shock me if any one of those teams ended up in the Super Bowl. Not one bit. CFC Coaster says, not saying that they should intentionally lose, just think it's funny that they start winning now. Because they got a quarterback. What you think that was accident? If Jimmy Garoppolo was their quarterback to start this season off, the 49ers would have won 6 to 7 games by now already. You know how many games they lost by 3 points or less this season? They would have won. The 49ers might be a playoff team right now. Real talk. With the way their schedule was set up and the games that they've lost this season, they might be in the hunt for the playoffs. If Jimmy Garoppolo, just remember, they had a stretch of losses. I think it was like a 6-game stretch where they lost by 3 points or less. It's not a coincidence that they get Jimmy Garoppolo and all of a sudden now all those games that they were losing close, they're winning now. Makes sense. You got a quarterback. FBG Tony says, Rams dismantled and obliterated the Seahawks. Shit was embarrassing. This could be the end of an elite era for the Hawks. Thought on that, bro? And Legion getting brittle and old and etc. Yeah, we talked about that earlier. I think this might be the closing of that chapter. And it was a good chapter, man. They went to 2 Super Bowls, should have won 2, won 1. It was a nice run, but I think it's done. The good thing is they still got Russell Wilson, so that's going to give them a shot to stay relevant. But as far as a Super Bowl team is concerned, that window's closed. I think they'll be one of those teams that, you know, they get in, they're dangerous, but no one's afraid of the Seattle Seahawks. Like, I don't think they'll be ever looked at least not for the foreseeable future. Now, they have a strong offseason, great draft, and, you know, some players come to their team. Some of these guys that are injured or young players that they're developing turn out to be studs. It could turn around for them quickly. But the Seahawks, as we know them, with the Legion of Boom and, you know, that whole group and that whole way of winning, that's dead. The Rams put that to sleep today. Here lies the Seattle Seahawks Legion of Boom era. Tombstone. It was born what? Let's go back to 2012. Let's call it January 19th, 2012. January 19th, 2013. It died on December 17th, 2017. Dead. John Perez says, which team in the playoffs do you expect to shit the bed next week other than the Raiders? Well, the Raiders aren't in the playoff hunt anymore. So, I don't know. I got to look at the schedule. I don't know who's playing who. But the Titans right now, boy, they're heading in the wrong direction. They might be the team that sees their playoff window close as well. 2 bad losses in a row. KT the Southern Gent says, Michael Thomas balled out today. I take back half of what I said. He's Pierre Garçon plus Bolden. I don't know why you was trying to kill that man. I told you he's a #1 receiver in this league. I don't understand why you didn't understand that. Like, Michael Thomas is a legit #1. The best receiver, hands down, that Drew Brees has had in New Orleans. And it's not close to me. It's better than Marquise Colston because he's a better athlete. I don't know how you didn't see that before, but it's all good. In any event, that's going to do it for your man Louie T here on Sunday Night Football Overtime. Cowboys get the win 20-17 over the Oakland Raiders. Raiders, with this loss, in effect, done in terms of playoff contention. Cowboys stay alive. And with Zeke Elliott coming back next week, they've got a legitimate shot at getting to the playoffs. Got to win out. Need some help. But all you can ask for this time of the year is a chance. And the Cowboys have exactly that with this win, 20-17 over the Raiders. This game will forever be known as Papergate. But Raiders had every opportunity to win this game. And the perfect way to wrap up their season was Derek Carr fumbling the football out of the end zone and thus fumbling away any chance of winning this game. It's going to do it for your man Louie T here on Sunday Night Football Overtime. I thank you guys for joining me. If you haven't already done so, subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content in 2017 and beyond. Changing the game over here, one live feed at a time. Want you to help us do that by simply hitting that subscribe button and becoming a member of the Louie T Network. If you can, please donate to the Louie T Network. Down in the description of this video and every video that I do. Shout out to all my new Patreon subscribers. Really appreciate your contributions. Shout out to my man Joe Sharp for his contribution via PayPal. Really appreciate the support that you guys are giving me, man. I can't begin to describe what that means for this program moving forward as I continue to try to build my brand and branch out and do some special things. The support of you guys from a viewing standpoint and also from a financial standpoint, I just can't begin to express how much that means to me and the growth of the Louie T Network. So thank you so much for all of you who have given, continue to give, and will give in the future. I thank you right now for that. So with that being said, I've got some more breakdowns. Hopefully, I feel like I've been here 2 hours doing this, so I don't know if I'm gonna jump back on, but I gotta get Steelers Patriots off my chest tonight for sure. So I'll at least be back. If nothing else, I'll be back with that one for sure, because that one pissed me off. That one stung too. Damn, that one pissed me off. So in any event, we'll be back with that one at worst, maybe more. We'll see how I feel after that one, but boy, that one pissed me off. So we'll be back with that one. Thank you for joining me. I'll be back. See you in a bit. Have a good one.